It is winding down for game week, Washington and New England, and that means it's time for Six Rings and Football Things, the Cadlick's Crucial Clashes
Yeah.
edition. Mike Cadlick alongside me, Andy Jumbo Hart. Mike Cadlick covers our daily beat with the Patriots for weei.com, and there's a written version of his clashes each and every week on the website, but we like to bring a little chat to that
Yes.
idea and that topic.
Some
Michael,
audio for an audio company. Ain't that right,
indeed, we
Mr.
are an
Hart?
audio company. We're an Odyssey company as
Oh, look at
well.
that.
See what I did there?
Yes.
Fresh off his run, where it's a little chilly, we're going to talk about some hot topics in Patriot
Oh,
Nation. First and foremost, from our not friend, because I don't like him, Mike Florio from Pro Football Talk, dropped a what he does, muckraking, rumor milling, whatever you want to call it. This is a pure rumor, and I think he posed it as such, a rumor that I
yeah.
think others have heard throughout time. But I always say, if I went with every rumor I've heard over the last 20 years, oh my God, I could write a book, and then I'd
Right.
get sued by a lot of people because they're rumors and they're not facts and they're not
Right.
reports. But the rumor,
And some of them would have came true and others would have been crazy.
absolutely, and
Right.
sifting through them would have been fun, trying to figure out which had truth and which were just pure rumors. But Mike Florio, Pro Football Talk, has blogged about it, did a video about it, has done some radio hits about it. This rumor idea that Josh Harris, the billionaire owner of the Washington franchise, would potentially pursue Bill Belichick via trade this offseason. As Florio positions it, it might be good for both organizations, might offer the Crafts an out from Bill Belichick, in which, A, they wouldn't have to pay whatever money's left on the extension that he reportedly signed before the season, but also you don't have to fire or kind of push out Bill Belichick. It would just be, a new opportunity for him, a new opportunity for us. We get some trade assets. Mike Cadlick, do you believe there's any truth to this? And would you want it to happen?
Interesting. Let's see. I think of Mike Florio as a reporter as well as an entertainer. I think he takes things and, like you said, sort of twists them into something for headlines because he does own his own website and created his own website, which is a successful website, Pro Football Talk. So
Yep.
people don't like him, and I get it. Like, he does kind of do this thing. But at the same time, I don't think he just completely makes stuff up. I do think he hears things, and I do think he picks and chooses what to report and what to not. He tweeted it himself last night, and this is sort of why I do tend to believe Florio. He was all over the Brady Miami Dolphins Stephen Ross thing like months before that ever actually blew up, and everybody called him crazy, and everyone said, "What are you talking about?" And then that all came true. And so ever since then, I've sort of taken what Florio says and think, okay, well, there is at least some truth to this. And whether he's spinning into something is one thing. But like even the Mac Jones rumors this offseason, I was like, there's something to this. He did hear something from a decent source. And so that's what I feel about this as well. I look at what he said about the way the leak of the contract came out. And on one hand, you can look at it and say, oh, maybe this was Belichick's camp trying to, position themselves as we're not going anywhere. Or maybe it was Kraft's camp saying, well, if you do want to trade for him, he's still ours, and you do have to, in fact, pay for him, and you're not just going to be able to get him on the open market this offseason. So, like you said, this has sort of been a thing people talk about in general, trading for Belichick because he is under contract, and it's sort of a just an idea. The fact that Florio says it's in NFL circles, I find interesting, and I do tend to believe at least bits and pieces of it. Do I want it to happen? I think I do. I
Oh,
think it makes sense. I think the way things are going here, um, it just it's not working anymore. And the 3 weeks we talk about in the Dallas loss, the New Orleans loss, and the Raiders loss. After that, everybody was talking about when's Belichick getting fired. This stinks. He's bad. Blah blah blah. It's over. They get a win against Buffalo, and the contract rumor comes out, and everyone's back to normal. And it literally the report and the leak did its job because we haven't been talking about firing Belichick nearly as much ever since that
right.
happened. Even after the Miami loss this weekend, that they lost by 14, and again didn't look like they were able to play. Offense was weak; it wasn't up to par with the Dolphins. The defense wasn't able to stop them whatsoever. But it's still sort of been hummed until this report comes out now. So I do. I think it probably does make sense for both parties. I think Washington, Josh Harris will pay for him. They just grabbed 2 first-round picks. I'm sorry. They just traded 2 former first-round picks for second and thirds. They grabbed capital. We'll get to that during our matchups previews. But yeah, I think a fresh start might make sense. And I think if they can get something for him, then yeah, I don't hate it. I don't hate the idea.
Yeah, I don't hate it either. And for an extended discussion about this, you can head on over to the Breaking Boston podcast feed, where
Yep.
Nick Fitzy-Stevens and myself talked about this as the story of the day, with a little bit of a breakdown, a little bit more detail. But in the end, if I can get something for Bill Belichick, that's better than me firing him, and that's allowing me to move forward in a different direction. Maybe it's best for all parties involved. So that's one. Two, I want to throw at you just a discussion, been a topic in the last 24 to 48 hours. Josh McDaniels was let go by the Las Vegas Raiders. It wasn't working, although I would point out that the Patriots only have one more victory in the last year plus than Josh McDaniels had in Vegas, and he got fired. Your offense is down in Josh McDaniels' land in terms of ineptitude. He got fired. Just putting that out there. But Josh McDaniels, he has left before and come back before and kind of left before and then stayed. There's an affinity, I think, from the Kraft family toward him, certainly from Bill toward him. So a popular question has been, will Josh McDaniels return to the Patriots? Could he be a consultant for the Patriots offense as he's done before? And a little snippet in there, I saw Rob Gronkowski say that he thinks Josh is coming back and that it could involve Bill O'Brien leaving at the end of the season, which, based on what we just talked about, if Bill leaves, Bill Belichick is traded, then yeah, Bill O'Brien could be gone. Who knows? They might blow it up. But Josh McDaniels is available. Would you want him back with the Patriots, whether it be next week or next year?
Yeah, I would. I think Josh McDaniels is a good offensive coordinator. I think he's a bad head coach.
Raiders fans would question that.
So, and I get that, and I see it, and I've seen it, and I understand that. But I look at him as a head coach, and like Patricia did, and like Flores did, they try and build this Patriot way elsewhere, and it doesn't work without Bill Belichick, and frankly, it doesn't work without Tom Brady, which is what we've seen. And so, I think schematically, it maybe his offense is a little dated compared to the new age, more college centric RPO type systems, but it works for what he does. It worked here for a long time. Josh McDaniels is a 6-time Super Bowl champion in several different capacities, and he helped Mac Jones. Mac Jones played his best football under Josh McDaniels. So, whether it be an offensive consultant this year, I would welcome him back with open arms. I think he's worked with Bill O'Brien before, and I'm sure that they would be able to make something work this season. And the Gronk thing next year is interesting as well, because not only could Belichick be gone, and that would mean a blow up. And now then I sort of wonder, if Belichick does end up in Washington, he might take McDaniels with him there, because it sounds like the O'Brien hire was more so Kraft driven than Belichick driven. I think Bill likes Josh more than he likes Bill. Bill Belichick likes Josh more than he likes Bill O'Brien. So I think that would make more sense, Josh to go to Washington, if that were to ever happen. But I think at the end of the day, next season in 2024, Josh McDaniels will be coaching under Bill Belichick in some capacity.
Interesting. There's definitely a bond there. And I should say I'm a Josh McDaniels guy. I like him. I think it's been proven he's not a head coach. It goes sideways really quickly. He somehow, and there's a certain arrogance to him that I think rubs people the wrong way. And if you don't win, because I think Bill has the same arrogance, he just was able to pair up with Tom Brady and win.
And I think you can project that arrogance as a coordinator under Bill Belichick, where you can't do it on your own.
Right. And it's interesting you bring up the Washington idea, kind of pairing our two topics together. And, I'm sure Bill could sell a new billionaire owner that, hey, this guy, he knows his offense. I need him with me and he can make some good money. I got to tell you, if I were Josh McDaniels, I think I would look into the college game, see if I can get a head coaching job in college, because twofold. A, I think it might just be a better lifestyle for him right now. He's still a relatively young guy, has a sort of a young look, recruiting wise, some of that.
Yeah.
And what you just said, go learn the college game, see what the offenses are doing at that level, try things at that level that might then promote you back to the NFL coordinator, whatever. And you might bring new ideas, new scheme, new energy to your offense that may be dated. Just
And that attitude he has works better in college. That sort of
Absolutely.
motivation, like it's tough to motivate guys who make, $8 million a year.
You
Like
can be a dictator in college. You cannot be a dictator in the NFL unless your name is Bill
100%.
Belichick because you earned it over, with
Right.
rings. So,
And
okay.
one more thing on the college game, just to think about with O'Brien leaving, our friend Paul Perillo, Patriots.com, mentioned this a few weeks ago. It sort of had some legs. O'Brien was apparently connected to the Michigan State job, with Mel Tucker being fired there. So that's just another thing to watch out for. Like O'Brien is not going to be the offensive coordinator here forever. If he bolts as soon as next season and Belichick's still here, that's another opening for McDaniels.
Well, I'll piggyback off that with an idea. Josh McDaniels, under Nick Saban, was a graduate
Ooh.
assistant at Michigan State. Maybe Josh McDaniels could be a Michigan State option if we
True.
talk about him going to the college game.
Or he could be the next offensive coordinator at Alabama under Nick Saban, because that has
that
turned
too.
into the whole. That's like offensive coach rehab. The
Yep.
Nick Saban offensive coordinator with Kiffin and O'Brien and Sark, like all those guys have come in and out of there and been successful on the other end.
So Josh
Other thoughts?
McDaniels will be an interesting guy to keep an eye on, whether he's in New England, Michigan, Alabama, who knows where. From a Patriots perspective, last big picture topic before we get into the matchups. We had Matthew Slater over the course of Sunday into Monday. Sunday after the game, talking about uncharted waters and where these Patriots were going leadership-wise and staying together, proving their character. And then he kind of expanded on that a little bit on the Jones and Mego show on Monday afternoon, where he talked about human nature. They're going to have to fight human nature. I kind of wrote a little column off that for weei.com.
Go check it out. It's very good.
Go check it out, please. Click on it. We need clicks. We live in the clicks business, even though we don't
Yes.
make stuff up or go as far as Florio to get those clicks. But do you think, and I'll tease quick here on the Six Rings feed elsewhere, a chat with Phil Perry, who definitely believes this fight with human nature and this locker room makeup is a concern right now at 2-6 and where this team goes. And, this Bill hasn't had to deal with this since 2000, and I think that was a different beast because it was the first year. It was a true rebuild. Matthew Slater, the leadership, David Andrews, who they haven't really had to deal with this idea that there's 9 games to play, and what are we actually playing for? Now, I like Jelani Tavai yesterday, who just laughed and said, we're professionals.
Yeah.
But
we make money here.
yeah, and it's easy to say that, and I think for some people, it's probably easy to approach it that way. But I think for some people, it's also easy to say, Jesus Christ, we got 9 games left to play. Like, I just want out of here. I'm going to start planning vacations. I'm going to sleep in. I'm going to hit the snooze button a couple times on the, like, do you think that's a concern with this locker room and this team over the second half?
I do. I do. I would sort of monitor it, if you will, because I think you mentioned they've never dealt with this before. You look at the captains of this team in Slater and Andrews and Wise, and all those guys have won Super Bowls. Like those guys know what it's been to win. They've been around success their entire time as Patriots. Mac Jones won a national championship at Alabama. He won national championships, and he was, the best college player or high school player in like Florida, top 10 recruit, whatever. Like he's only dealt with success. The only one to look at is Hunter Henry, but he's sort of like I don't know. I don't want to call him a second level captain, but you get my point. Like the leaders of this team have only dealt with success. They haven't dealt with failure much. And so it's hard for them to kind of understand, like, what to do now. And so you're right, with 9 games left. You mentioned the snooze button. You mentioned, if they're calling to be in there at 5 a.m. to go for a lift, it's like, all right, well, am I really going to do all 10 of these reps? Like we're 2-9. Like what's this for? And the only thing I'd say to that is I do see what Jelani Tavai is saying about, we do this for a living. This is how we make money. Like Josh Uche still needs to go get a bunch more sacks to try and get paid next season. And Kyle Duggar, if he hauls in 5 more interceptions and leads the team in tackles, then maybe he won't come back because he'll garner that much more money on the market and Belichick won't want to pay him. And so like those guys are still going to try. The contract year guys are still going to try. Mac Jones is still going to go out there and try because he's fighting for a quarterback position. Like not just here, but he's basically trying out for the rest of the league if they don't move forward with him. So there are definitely pockets of players that you might sort of see start to dog it. And I think that that's going to make everybody else's job harder because football is the truest team game there is. Like you need all 11 guys on the same page. And with these wide receivers going down now, like they do need to kind of get the young guys going. And you wonder if Tyquan Thornton, whether he mails it in or just kind of realizes that, am I an NFL football player? And Kayshon Boutte still doesn't get an opportunity. So even when he does, is he going to be ready for it? Like there's a lot that goes into this. And I think it's going to be tough for those leaders to garner everybody and get everybody on the same page.
Yeah, I always say it's easy to lead and have a good attitude when you're winning. Like I could go be a captain of the Boston Celtics right now because they're up 30 in the first quarter. There's no leadership needed. Like the leadership is the skill to some degree.
And I want to clarify, and just to kind of go to Hunter Henry again, like he's just a new captain. Like he's never been a captain of this team before. So like even though he has dealt with losing with Los Angeles, whatever, it's like, okay, but who am I compared to the guys who have been here so long?
Right.
So,
no, I get you. And I do think, and even with the potential for offseason turnover, Robert Kraft is not a absentee owner. He's around. Right. So even if you say, okay, the football leadership's going to change, I think Robert Kraft is watching every single player on this team. And I think Robert Kraft is aware of which cars are in the parking lot at 6 o'clock still and which cars used to be and aren't anymore. And which guys like Kyle Duggar or Tyquan Thornton, guys you mentioned, have no give up in them. Like, and I think that will filter into his assessment as he moves forward. Whoever the GM and whoever the coach is next year, if the GM says, we want to give Kyle Duggar $90 million, Robert Kraft and Jonathan Kraft might say, I don't know, the end of last year, I saw some quit in him. And I'm not saying that will happen. I don't want to
it's an
besmirch
example.
his reputation, but they may have some information just on the way these people handled adversity that may affect how they're willing to write checks or build the team with someone else making the decisions moving forward.
You're just talking about the opposite end of what I just said, where if Kyle Duggar and we're using Duggar because he's the contract year guy, but some guys are going to give it their all, others are not going to not, and everybody's sort of watching what they do.
Correct. So those are some things to keep an eye on. Bill Belichick's future, Josh McDaniels' future, and every player's future down a 9-game stretch. But more importantly, we have, and I wanted to bring this up real quick, just in case I get any criticisms, twofold. First of all, I'm not being a hardo by wearing a hat inside. It's cold in my house. I'm not turning the heat on yet, and it's like 28 degrees outside. Second, because we're playing the Commanders, who used to have a different name. If you're offended by this, I apologize, but I'm going to tell you this logo for the Dartmouth High Indians was designed by a member of the local Wampanoag tribe in the 70s, and that tribe fought very hard over the last few years to keep this logo tied to the Dartmouth school system and teach children about the history of the area. Right. So if you have a problem with it, do a little research and you'll find out you shouldn't be offended. You should actually support it because the Wampanoag tribe supports it. Thank you. Moving forward to the Commanders.
Yes.
So the Commanders are 3-5.
It kind of did look like you were wearing a Redskins hat for a second.
I know, but I'm not. So I just wanted to clarify that because I kind of saw it in the computer and was thinking to myself, somebody's going to be offended by this. Yep. So if you're offended, well, you shouldn't be. And yes, I'm telling you what to be offended about. Go screw yourself.
Love it.
So the 3-5 Washington Commanders come to Gillette Stadium, not to pick up Bill Belichick and bring him back to Washington.
Well, who knows? Crazier things have happened.
Whatever. But to play the Patriots. And so there's some interesting matchups in this game. It got a little less interesting on some level when Washington decided to trade its two best pass rushers. 11.5 total sacks were shipped out of town. Montez Sweat, Chase Young, gone. Now they'll have other guys step up, as Hunter Henry said after he accidentally smirked when he said he didn't have to block Chase Young and company. Yeah. But no, they'll be tough too. Those guys, this is opportunity. These guys will step up. Yeah, they'll step up. They're not as good. Chase Young was really, really talented. Montez Sweat, really talented. So interesting matchup because I think they're kind of on a level playing field. Like these are kind of middling teams. I know the Patriots are probably below middling right now, but the Commanders are trending in that direction too, having lost 5 of 6 this year. But they also just went toe-to-toe in a shootout with the Eagles. So
they always play them close.
Those division games, you're right, are a little different. But the Patriots went toe-to-toe with the Eagles 2.5 months ago or 2 months ago. So where do we start when it comes to matchups for Patriots Commanders in what isn't necessarily a marquee game, but we have to talk about it and watch it because we're professionals. We get paid to do so.
Exactly. I'm going back to the Patriots secondary because of what happened last weekend. I think so number one, if you check it out, weei.com, Crucial Clashes. Number one is Dotson, McLaurin, and Curtis Samuel against this Patriots secondary, because last week we talked about it here on this show. It was sort of, okay, how do you mitigate Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle? You did it in week 2. You held them to like, I think just over 100 yards maybe in week 2, and no one touchdown and a couple catches. Like, you really held them in check. And last week was the exact opposite. Like, they blew them out. It was 15 catches for 2 something and 2 touchdowns. They each had one. Tyreek Hill had the long one, and then Jalen Waddle had the complete busted coverage as well. Like, they didn't know how to cover them last week. It was complete opposite from week 2. And so I look at this one now, not as talented, but you still look at Terry McLaurin as a de facto number 1 option. Jahan Dotson is a young second-year player who has kind of had some success. And then Curtis Samuel is another quick guy. So same sort of build as those two. Obviously not as good, but and you have 3 of them to take care of. It's going to be tough. And so I'm curious to see how they do it. Like, you have Jonathan Jones and Jack Jones still, but then Sean Wade and Miles Bryant kind of fall off in that room. And even Jack Jones and JC Jackson's there as well. They weren't great last week. So I want to see them improve. I want to see how they dial it up. And it's not like I look at it and I say, okay, well, that happened against them in Miami. Now you're playing the Commanders. Like, you'll bounce back. But no, they have some pretty good wide receivers. So they're going to have to figure out a way to stop it.
This is definitely an interesting matchup. This is another matchup where I say, like, the other team has better receivers than you, has receivers to challenge your secondary. I'm not sure we really have a feel for what the Patriots' pass defense is right now. There was that momentum where they take everybody away. They're doing a good job. They take away number 1 receivers. They do these things. And then the bottom fell out of that. You literally didn't really cover Hill and Waddle last week, and literally didn't cover Waddle on the game-ending play, 31-yard touchdown.
That was so bad.
Yeah, it was. Really
it was, and it was the cheat motion that they do with Hill, and they just send him that way. That I'm sure they watched all week in practice, and I'm sure they said, "This is how we do this, and don't fall for it." And everybody ran with him. I think the defensive line ran with him. Like,
absolutely. And I understand that he's Tyreek Hill. Like,
right.
I understand sort of the distraction. It's kind of like at a little league game when a plane flies over and all the kids look up, and you're like, "Don't do that," but you kind of look up yourself and look at the plane. Like, it's distracting. Like, okay, whatever. One wild card here that I find interesting is Sam Howell. I don't know what people think of him. His numbers are kind of weird. He has 8 interceptions. So you're like, oh, he's in Mac world of, like, he turns the ball over. 4 of those came in a loss to the Bills where, like, it was just an ugly day. And he also, I wrote it down, I believe he's had 2+ touchdown passes in like 4 of his last 5 games or something. So he's getting the ball.
He slings it. Yeah.
Yeah. He slings it to some competitive, capable receivers against a secondary that we're still trying to figure out. Are they competent? Are they going to be on the same page? Or because I feel like, I guess my answer is here, they're not as good as Miami, obviously, but they're capable of taking advantage of matchups or busted coverages. If you leave Terry McLaurin uncovered, or you get him in a matchup with Miles Bryant, I feel like Sam Howell will find him and toast you with it. So I definitely think this is a matchup to watch, and probably one that swings the game. If you can get a couple picks and you can change the momentum and make a couple plays in the back end, you probably have a good chance to win this game. And if I watch Dotson running down the field uncovered and Sam Howell just hits him in stride, you probably lose the game, because they can score more than you can score. Like, they score more points than you.
Yeah.
So if you give up a few of those plays, and I know that's historically not Patriots defense, like, okay, GTFB, even the Dolphins thing, we saw the original one with the 3 safeties and basically saying, everything in front, you're not getting behind us, we're a wall. I think you need to do that moving forward against the Washington Commanders. The hell happened to your screen?
Yeah, my screen's coming in, but we're good. I touched my USB, but that's okay.
You have like a black line across the top of your screen. Oh, it's back. You're back.
I have 2 cameras. Yeah, we're good.
Back.
We're rolling.
So yeah, I like your first matchup. I do think it is crucial or critical or whatever you want to call it. I actually think you did a good job stacking it, because I think it could decide the game.
Yeah, well, I look at too, and before we get to the second one, like, you mentioned that this team scores more than you. Like, if you ever told me like 2 years ago that Sam Howell and Jahan Dotson and all these guys are going to be like the much better offense, I'd call you crazy, but that's kind of where we are. Like
Yeah.
you look at it, it's like, oh, we're talking about a 2-6 football team and an offense that can't score. So
Right. And even you look at it like Brian Robinson, not great, but he's averaging 4 yards a carry. He's got 4 touchdowns. He's doing his part on the ground to balance out their off. Like, are they great? No, but you're really
yeah,
bad. So
right.
they don't need to be great to beat you. Okay. Second crucial clash in this game from Mike Cadlick, weei.com is
It is the Patriots offensive line once again taking on the Washington Commanders defensive front because Washington just shipped out their 2 best players on the defensive front in Montez Sweat and Chase Young. And when Belichick spoke yesterday, he started talking about, Casey Toohill and whoever, Smith, like the other guys. Like, no, I get he has to say that, and that's coach speak, and that's not just a Patriot way thing. That's everyone's going to say, well, we
right.
still got to worry about those guys. But no, they just shipped out their 2 best players. Like, you should have Mac Jones should have time this week, especially with where the offensive line has been at the last few weeks. I know last week wasn't great, but they were really good against Buffalo. Onwenu's back at right tackle. City So, the rookie guard, has been really good. I think since week 6, he hasn't allowed a sack and only like 1 hurry on Mac Jones or something like that. So he's been good in pass pro. Trent Brown, however, hobbled. I think he didn't practice yesterday. I love the eyes. You love Trent. You love Trent Brown, don't you, Andy?
It's a love-hate relationship.
Yeah. So he's out there. He got paid, and I think he wants to try and push through and play. I think he's a motivated Trent right now. However, he literally can't walk. Everybody that was down in Miami said that when they went in the locker room after the game, he was like struggling to put anything on that right leg. It's his ankle. It's his knee. I don't know if he's going to play this week. He didn't practice yesterday.
So who's going to play? Who's the left tackle, the backup? I mean, Connor McDermott was a call-up last week.
I think it's Connor McDermott.
Boy, am I glad that they traded away their 2 best pass rushers then.
Or is it Vidarian Lowe? Oh, no, Vidarian Lowe is hurt too, right? Was he?
Yeah, and I don't want Vidarian Lowe.
I'd
rather have Connor McDermott.
But, and so that's kind of the point, right? Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, just from the Washington perspective, like they were all selling the story. Ron Rivera is selling the story, like his guys get the opportunity. Hunter Henry, Bill Belichick are selling the story, opportunity, these guys. But not only are backups for a reason everywhere, these guys weren't just backing up mediocre players. They were backing up really productive, good pass rushers. So the reality is this matchup is significantly better for you than it would have been 48 hours earlier before the trade deadline. So even with the injuries, even with the questions in the Patriots offensive line, because I do have questions about that left side if Trent Brown can't go, because as much as I may not like Trent Brown, he's as talented a lineman as they have, and he's played relatively well most of the year. And I have questions about the guy to his right, Cole Strange. So now if I double my questions on the left side, it's like another reason, Mac Jones has an excuse for why I suck. Well, those guys suck too, and their job affects my job kind of thing.
Right. Yep. And I think that's sort of been the case for Mac all year too. Like, honestly, I think it starts and ends with that offensive line. And I mean, he has totally made some mistakes. Like, you talk about that interception against Jalen Ramsey last week, like, inexcusable. You got to either fire the ball in there or know who's on that side of the ball. And then a lot of times too, Mac sort of makes a mistake and then he unravels from there. And so, like, as soon as that happened, it kind of like the offense was toast. And so it starts and ends up front. I think they should be able to, give him some time and get them rolling. But if they can't handle the backups, then it's gonna be tough sledding. So that's the second one I'm watching.
So I want to flip the script here because I know it's not your third matchup, so we'll talk about it here.
Okay.
I think equally as important, and there's some backups involved and some health questions and all kinds of things, is the Patriots pass rush against the Washington offensive line, because Sam Howell has been sacked 41 times. Sam Howell against the Bills was sacked 9 times. He has been sacked 4 or more times in 7 of 8 games, I believe. Like, you can get after Sam Howell. You can. Now, we know Matthew Judon, I don't think he's playing, even though he put out a weird Kane meme on Instagram or Twitter last night, to which I just responded googly eyes, which doesn't mean I know anything. It just literally means I was looking at it and didn't really get it, but I'm interested. But can the Patriots take advantage of an offense that's susceptible to the sack, because again, those are game-changing plays. If you get the 5+ sacks that they give up, that gives you a shot of getting off the field on third down, a turnover, a strip sack, a long yardage, whatever, force them into a throw. So I am predicting, positive Andy here, I am predicting that the two players we will be talking most about from the defensive side of the ball after this game on Sunday
I think
will
I
be
know one of them.
Christian Barmore, because
Okay.
he's been really good. And I think, again, another guy maybe you keep an eye on to see where his motivation and effort goes. But if I'm Christian Barmore, F y'all, I'm making plays this week. I'm starting to build my free agency resume for a year from now. Maybe I can get 3 sacks against Washington. And the other guy who I think is a beast in the making, Keon White. I think those two guys are going to be thorns in Sam Howell's side. If the Patriots have a shot to win this game, those guys will be part of the plan.
Yeah, I'm with you. And even Anthony Jennings has been pretty good the last few weeks.
Better.
And if Josh Uche is back, if he gets back in plays, I know he's situational, but I mean, we talk about Uche now. It's kind of a weird narrative with the trade and everything. And is he that good and he's situational? But I mean, he can go and get after the quarterback too. So he's now playing for his money now that he didn't get traded. So go out there and ball. And you're right, they can get after Howell, because that Washington offensive line isn't great.
Yeah, and I think that that can be a key. Now, I don't know if they can do it. I mean, they should be able to, because everybody's done it against Washington, basically. So if you don't, it's probably a bad sign. It's a glaring negative for you. But they still have the horses, even with Judon out. And even if Uche's banged up or Uche's not full go, and I don't know how much of last week was pre-trade deadline, keep him out, versus he's actually not healthy enough, keep him out. But Barmore, Jennings, my guy Keon White, Dietrich Wise, like, you have enough bodies. You blitz a little bit, send some extra bodies. They've done that this year. Like, you have the bodies to take advantage. So get after Sam Howell, make his life difficult, make him make mistakes. Otherwise, you could be in trouble, as we talked about on the back end. Third crucial clash from Mike Kadlick would be?
I'm staying with the Patriots offense, and I'm looking at some experience against some experience in the coordinators. And I'm looking at Jack Del Rio, defensive coordinator for the Washington.
River.
Yes. Of the Washington Commanders as well. A guy who has been around. He's been head coach. He's been up and down. I didn't realize he was the Jaguars head coach for 8 seasons.
Oh, yeah.
He was there for a long time.
And he also used a lot of water. Remember that scandal that he used, like, more water than anybody in the greater? It was like his water bill was like $15,000.
Yeah.
It's crazy because he watered his lawn at all times. I forget it. The random note. Go ahead. Jack Del Rio. He's old and experienced.
Yeah, he's old. He's experienced. He's been around. He's had some ups and downs, but like, he's a good defensive coordinator, and Ron Rivera trusts him to sort of scheme it up. And I think that's what they're going to have to do without their star defensive ends. I think Del Rio's job gets that much more difficult this week, and I wonder how he handles it. And then I look at the other side and Bill O'Brien, a guy who, when he came in, we were looking at this offense and the scheme and thinking, this is how Mac's going to work, and you find your matchups. And if you watch, I think Mac Jones understands the offense completely. I really do. I think he understands the answers to the test that he talks about, and he goes up to the line and he yells O'Brien in his ear for a second. And a lot of times they take the play clock down because Mac is adjusting and making his set. They call 2 plays at the line. He is alerting and he's saying, "Oh, this is why," and that's your mic, and come in motion. Are they in man? Are they in zone? And oftentimes it doesn't actually work out the way they want, but sometimes it does. And it's like, oh, these are the answers they're looking for. And so I'm curious to see when that all finally clicks, because it sort of did against Buffalo, but not the entire game. And then last week was a disaster, but there was a couple. And so I just look at O'Brien and the scheme with Mac, and I look at, now that they'll finally have some time against the depleted defensive line group in Washington, if they can actually get something going on offense. So it's going to be a challenge again, because Del Rio's damn good, but O'Brien versus Del Rio. Patriots offense is the most important unit in this game, in my opinion. That's why I have 2 of my 3 clashes focused on the offense. And as bad as it's been, it's blind hope, I admit, but there's something there. And I know the wide receivers aren't there, but I still think what Mac and O'Brien have together, there's something there.
Okay. So I've learned something this season, even though I'm not beholden to statistics and numbers. When I look at bad offenses in the NFL, I see the Las Vegas Raiders, the
Mhm.
New York Giants, and the New England Patriots. And what do those offenses have in common? Three of my favorite offensive coaches are running those shows, or were running those shows. Josh McDaniels was asked to
Right.
leave the Raiders. Brian Daboll in New York, and obviously Bill O'Brien here in New England. So I've learned apparently I know nothing about good offensive coaches. I just like
It's
those
a fair
guys,
point.
and maybe I have a
I like
blind
him too.
spot. But I do actually agree with you. I think Billy O and Mac have a little something going. Now, I'm not sure they have the offensive line and the weapons to execute it completely, and I think that is a part of it. And yes, I'm making excuses. Okay, I'm making excuses
Yeah.
for Billy O and Mac at the same time. But I do think, because a lot of people are like, oh, we owe Matt Patricia an apology, and the numbers are actually worse. And no, I think this is a better offense.
Right. I agree.
And you can tell me no because you have numbers on your side to say that it's not, but I think it's better. I think Mac's a better quarterback. I think the scheme is better. I think the players trust the scheme more this year and like understand what they are doing.
Correct.
I just don't know how good they are, both in terms of a line and receivers. And we're going to
Right.
get that challenged again because the veterans are all hurt. You lost your best player in Kendrick Bourne, which I think is a massive blow, both in terms of playmaking. I thought he was going to be their triple
You
crown
had
winner.
it. You had
I
it. It
did.
was all. It was
Damn it.
well on track
Damn
too.
it.
Yeah.
And I need to be right about something because there's been a lot of wrongness in Andy Hart over the last
Oh
6 months
boy.
or so. Although I was kind of right about the team in general not being
Yeah.
very good.
You
So I
said
kind
they
of
weren't
nailed.
gonna. They were gonna stink. I had like 11 wins on this thing.
Yeah. So I kind of nailed the big picture, but I was thinking more like when I said James Robinson would be good. And who knows, maybe James Robinson
Forgot
could.
about that.
Um, but it's a chance for Billy O. It's if we're going to use that opportunity word that people say for the the Commanders and their pass rushers,
Yeah.
this is an opportunity for your guy Pop Douglas, for Tyquan Thornton, hopefully to be on the field. Booty, like go young, give these guys a shot.
Yep.
They may fall in their faces, but what do you have to lose? You're already losing. You already stink offensively, whatever. And maybe Mac. I even feel like Mac should just because Mac has been very loyal and tied to Hunter Henry, Kendrick Bourne, Juju.
Yep.
Maybe Mac on like Thursday or Friday night needs to get like Booty, Thornton, Douglas together. Just go out to dinner and be like,
Mhm.
listen, I know I've been spending a lot of time with those old effers, but they stink. I need you guys.
Yeah.
We're the young guns. We need to do this together. We're all we got kind of mentality,
Yeah.
play
No
off
one
of
is
JoJo.
coming.
No one's coming. It's just us.
Yeah.
Booty, I need you to be in bounds when I throw it to you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thornton, I need you to freaking be on the field and run past somebody. You're
Yeah.
fast. I have confidence in you, but we need to do this. And maybe that's too much of like a Disney movie script thing, but I think I would try that if I were Mac. Invite
Yeah.
those guys over for dinner and be like, listen, the youth movement is on. We're doing it ourselves. Let's go take advantage of the
Yeah.
Commanders.
He said it himself on Jones and Mego. He was like, "Look, I don't want to do this for now. I want to build it for the future too." And
Yeah.
people took that the wrong way. It was like, "Well, are you even going to be here?" And I get it, but that's the other company line coach speak, Mac Jones talk. Like they're all going to say that. They're not. Matt's not going to sit there and say, "Well, no, we're all out of here next year anyway." Like,
Right.
so it's true though. Like if you can say, "Let's do this for now and let's do this for next year as well," you're right. Like you get a chemistry going and let's rock. So I don't hate the concept of that either. So.
Okay, so those are our clashes. This is a matchup of two mediocre at best football teams, maybe bad football teams,
I'd
teams
go
that
with
maybe,
bad.
yeah, they're bad. Okay, I was being nice, but they're bad. Okay, they're bad near the bottom of the NFL. So
Yep.
what does Mike Cadlick expect to unfold at Gillette Stadium on Sunday, where the home crowd, I don't know if the last we saw them, the home
The
crowd was
what?
surprisingly happy and entertained.
Yeah.
I don't know if that'll play true again. So Mike Cadlick, what do you expect on Sunday and what's the score?
I don't think they're gonna win. I don't. They don't do it. You like that? I know. After all that, we put in all the work. We talked for 40 minutes about the matchups, and I don't know. I just even with Washington looking like they're sort of mailing it in, and something coming out about Belichick and them trading their last two first round edge defenders, like I'm going 20-17 Commanders. I think the Patriots don't score a lot of points. I think the way you said it, the Commanders offense is objectively better. Even when Sam Howell is under duress and gets pressured, like you said, he's able to find those guys. Terry McLaurin's like a top 10-ish wide receiver in the league. The Patriots don't have anything like that. I don't know if they have the horses on defense to stop anything like that. So I think it's going to be low scoring, but I don't think the Patriots eke it out. I just don't. I don't know if they have it again. Buffalo looks more and more like a flash in the pan every time I look at it. My thing was that's how this team wins football games is the Buffalo Bills game. And this is what I was talking about. And they don't have it as often. So that being said, Washington 20, Patriots 17.
Okay, so as always, I will push people over to the Six Rings preview with Fitzy and myself, and I will leave you, though, with one optimistic note or optimistic point to ponder. Whichever team tries to win this game might win it, because we're talking about the Commanders. Damn it. The Commanders sold off.
The hat.
Yeah, I know. The Commanders sold off. The Patriots did not, but we're pondering their motivations. They're are they trying? The team that tries might win this game, which I guess that's good. And then the second part, I would say, I do believe if you play as well as you played in Miami, because I do think there were some positives in that game. It wasn't all negatives. You just didn't measure up to the Dolphins and their offense and their weapons. If you play the way you played in Miami, if you start fast and you build a lead and maybe get an early turnover and do some good things, I think you'll have a very good chance to win this football game. I don't know if that'll happen. I didn't say I knew that would happen. I said if you try.
The formula's there. Yeah.
Yes. That is my take on this. But Mike Kadlick, who is typically very negative, is taking the Commanders to beat the Patriots. The Patriots would fall to 2-7 midway through the year. Holy foo. Oh, my God. I can't even think about it. But the good news is you'll be high in the draft picks. And then we can, I said, pain now could be pleasure later if you end up in the top 2 or 3 picks in the draft. So
start watching those quarterbacks or Marvin Harrison Jr. or whoever it may be.
Absolutely. We stay optimistic here on Six Rings and Football Things. We find some positive, even if that positive won't be till late April. He's Mike Kadlick. I'm Andy Hart. Those are your crucial clashes for Patriots Commanders, Gillette Stadium on Sunday. We'll be back next week to see if Mike was right or if I was right, or we'll just be back because, like Jelani Tavai says, we're professionals and they pay us for the full season.
Exactly. Thanks for watching, everybody.